I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
If you would like to get your song reviewed, dear listener, there's the filthy capitalist option. As Sori says, $125 gets you straight to the head of the line. You don't have to be a part of the alliance. You don't have to be part of the group.
Wait a minute.
And the biggest thing is you don't have to wait. You hop, skip, and jump right in front of everybody. $125 gets you there. You do that 3 times, and you get mashed down to the $75 rate for perpetuity.
Yes!
Also, there is a band review option. So if you've got a band and you're trying to get your band some exposure, hit me up at villageXchange@gmail.com, and I'll show you the details about how to pull that off.
You can also jump on Patreon, and there is a option on the tiers to be able to get your band reviewed. Yep. Obviously, we can't lie to you, so we can't guarantee a positive review. Get what you get.
It's just rubbish.
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 That's British for garbage.
My favorite is the community option. $1 at the gate gets you in at Patreon. You get to join an alliance. The alliance joins their points together, and that helps determine what songs that we do.
The alliances hang out on Discord.
Message me on Patreon to get the link.
And they do all kinds of other cool things. They do Minecraft, Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah. It's really a community within the community. Anybody can go in the village, facebook.com/Vin and Sori. There's 160,000+ people on the channel. What's cool about the Discord is that it offers a real opportunity for community connection, friendship, that type of thing.
And it's on Discord, so if you're not a Facebook person, it's for you.
You start off at $1.
Right.
Plus you get exclusives. Sori and I are working on a song. So the first 15 seconds of that was on Patreon. Also, at $15 tier and above, when we actually debut the video, they're going to be there live with us. There you are, dear listener.
Buy our merch.
Buy merch.
Buy our merch indeed. You know what was happening? I was looking at the video from
the stream.
From the stream.
Yeah, and it's
buy our merch, and when you buy our merch, send us a picture of it so that we can show the village.
If you look really closely, Seven Dusted is actually wearing one of our shirts. I'm lying.
Oh, really?
I'm lying, babe.
Oh, no. By the way, this is DJ 7. DJ 7 in the house, ladies and gents.
This
ahead.
guy right here.
This man right here. Yeah. This man right here. Look at this man right here.
All right. So.
Shout out to Arad Rezanpour.
Uh-oh. This next song is Metal Church, yay, called Fake Healer.
Oh, Lord. Fake Healer, Metal Church.
This is going to start some conversation,
This is going to be some shizness. Sure, Shaw. No sweat. Okay, Fake Healer, Metal Church, let's go. That pick was from 2007. Don't think I knew y'all that long. What you don't understand, Seven, is that we are time travelers.
Right, so you did. We were at that.
Uh-oh. like off beat with that riff. I love it. That
Did you notice the way they ended that? Dun 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 dun.
Yeah, that sounds.
It kind of
like,
sounds like when they're walking them to go get their heads cut off.
Well, it's a Metallica. There's a Metallica song which I think was actually a cover of another song. "Am I Evil?" Mm-hmm. That's how it starts. Dun 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun,
that was
dun,
the
dun,
sound
dun,
that they
dun,
would do
dun.
on the drums when they were walking them to be hanged or whatever.
Yeah, that's a pretty famous progression, but it sounded exactly like "Am I Evil?" as DJ just said.
Wow, this is just.
But what I loved about it was, I'm starting to learn that like all guitarists are influenced by other guitarists, and musicians are influenced by other musicians. Mm-hmm. So that's not a problem. The issue is, can you develop it and do something? Can you evolve it? Right?
Yeah.
And that riff or that drum, whatever you want to call it, that lick, whatever it is, like they took that riff, the Am I Evil riff, and then they built on it. They did something else with it. And what I loved about the guitar work is that it wasn't like revolutionary riffage, but it was just like, I don't know how to explain it, but it was just like a tad off. Like it was a tad like not what you normally hear, and it was still heavy. And I obviously, as a guitarist, you're gonna default to saying that the guitar is the most important instrument in metal. But the guitar is the most important instrument in metal. I mean, it's what makes metal metal. It's what makes it.
Yeah.
I'm not saying
I was
like.
going to argue with you and say, no, it's drums, but I really think drums are massively important. But if you had the lyrics, well, I don't know. I think you could make a pretty badass song with just lyrics and drums.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah. I think Ian's right. Like different time signatures, things like that. That, you know, it was just a little bit different, not what you normally hear. And I like stuff like that because it's dangerous. Because sometimes you can tell when a band is trying to be avant-garde or different or whatever. And it's something like we just did a review, and just sometimes it just doesn't work. I just don't think it works. But this,
are they a Christian band?
no. Not
But
at all.
wasn't the last song really good? Well, it's just interesting because they call themselves Metal Church. And then, like...
Yeah, this is the one...
you know what this reminded me of?
I'm listening.
You remember the woman in the Bible that had the issue of blood and she went through doctor after doctor and they just took all of her money from her?
Yeah.
And, like, clearly they didn't know how to help the woman, but they kept taking her money until she had nothing left. And then...
Then Jesus healed her, inshallah. But, like...
But the idea that people could let somebody else die for money is just...
I thought initially that this was, I'm pretty sure you did too, about like church, right? Like faith healers in a church. I was certain it was about that. I was certain it was like, okay.
But
like,
it didn't, that was only by the title. By the time the first verse was done, I knew it wasn't about church.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Because they don't take major credit cards and, you know what I'm saying? Like churches will, you know, they'll pass the plate around, but...
What year was this written?
I thought, why was it? Oh, I have 1989. Holy moly.
So it's fascinating. Like
I
people
really feel like these people are beyond their time. Go ahead.
Oh, Metal Church?
Yes.
I agree with that.
I think that this is one of the bands
This was in 1989? That song was in 1989?
That's what I'm saying. I'm telling you, that doesn't sound like it's that old.
No.
I mean, we were just babies.
That does not sound like a 30-year-old song at all.
No.
Holy shit. Rest in peace to the homie, because this is a guy. Remember we did this last week. He ended up killing himself. The lead singer of this band. He died pretty much around the same week that Joey died. Joey from Slipknot. Rest in peace to the homie. But Pfizer CEO opposes U.S. call to waive COVID vaccine patents, citing manufacturing and safety issue. So during a pandemic, we had, we've got these vaccines or whatever, say what you want about them. And so we, American citizens, were telling Biden, waive these patents so that other people in the world can have access to this thing.
Exactly.
And he's going, I don't know. And the CEO, may Allah destroy her. The CEO says, hey, we shouldn't do that because we're worried about manufacturing and safety issues. So she's saying if
they don't produce it properly, there could be issues.
They're saying, hey, if you release this patent, it's not that I'm worried that I could lose billions of dollars because then they would have to buy it from us. They don't have the money to. That's not what she was concerned about. She was concerned about people's safety. Newsflash, it's a fucking pandemic where people are dying. You fucking weirdo. You actually think that we believe that you didn't want to waive the patents because you were worried about people's safety? This song is about I'm taking it and applying it to the industry as a whole.
See, this is the thing. We've been having these conversations with the kids a lot lately because it's kind of like our family kind of goes through, because there's so many of us, it's like this whole ecosystem and we go through different phases of different things. And right now, the conversation is a lot about truth and saying the actual truth. But sometimes you can have like 3 or 4 truths on a given topic and you'll say your second, third, or fourth truth.
Right.
And it's technically true, but it's not the truest true that you could have. And so how to be the most real with each other, how to be the closest with a group of people is everybody is the most real with each other as they possibly can be. But obviously this woman can't be that real and say, well, I don't want to lose that money. I'd rather people die.
Yeah, but we all know.
Yeah, I know. But when people are deluded, sometimes they think that that's actually believable. Like, all of us can see through
Right.
that, but we've seen it a bunch of times where people say stuff that it's like, well, everybody knows that makes you a villain. You know what I mean? But you just think that that we're all falling for, that we're all that stupid, that you're actually that grand, that you think that you could deceive us in that way. But then I don't know. At the same time, there's a lot of things that people believe and go with that you're like, really? I don't know. Anyway, carry on. This is just terrible.
It's just fascinating to me that he took on it, because I was certain it was that what's that song? Leper Messiah, Metallica.
Yeah.
I was certain that he was gonna, jump on that side of it, and honestly, it's been a blind spot for me. Okay, when I talk about Medicare for all, there is a counter argument where people are saying, well, I mean, we can make a lot of, like, for example, diabetic meds. We can make those
for
affordable.
Like $7 or something.
We can make those
I can't remember
less than that. We can make those affordable. It's the pharmaceutical companies are like, yeah, but I want that yacht, bro. So, and the other thing is that a lot of these medicines come about because of government grants and research. And I keep telling people the government hasn't given anybody $1. The people in our government are straight leeches. They leech off of us. So we're the ones that are funding the Pfizer research and all the rest of it. Then they come up with this medicine that can save lives, and then they put a monetary gate over it. So even though the regular citizen paid for it, when they actually need it, they can't use it because, yay, capitalism. Even though our money went into developing
I know.
the medicine.
You know what's crazy? This is the first time in my life I think this has ever happened. I obviously feel bad for all the people that are not getting what they need and all that. But in a way, I feel bad for that CEO that their mind is that corrupt. Like, what type of a miserable ass person do you have to be to withhold something like that from mass groups of people?
Yeah.
Like, I'm just saying, like, you know how I can take it, if we aren't getting along, I can take a break and go to another room. But you can't take a break from yourself. And you're the type of person that would withhold something like that from entire groups of people? What type of person are you? Mm-hmm. And you have to spend all day, every day with yourself and the rest of eternity.
Yeah, I was actually, Michael Moore. I was listening to a podcast, and there was this insurance guy.
Okay.
And he was the head of some big insurance company. And Michael Moore did I think the name of the documentary was Sicko. I think was the name of the documentary.
Okay.
And he was talking about healthcare. And, it's Michael Moore, so there was some propaganda, blah, 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 and bullshit and unfounded. But the core of it was how evil the sort of symbiotic relationship between the pharmaceutical companies and the insurance companies. Mm-hmm. And so they were talking about the insurance company. This lady had cancer, yada, yada, yada. But she had stubbed her toe when she was 9, and there was some weird little thing. So the insurance company didn't pay for any of her, whatever. So anyway, this guy was the head of one of these, the head of one of these companies. And he was watching Michael Moore's documentary with his son. And his son said, at the end of it, he said, "Dad, do you do that?" And the dad had to say, yep. And the kid said, "Dad." And he quit. He quit. He said, I couldn't look at my son. And that's one of the reasons why anybody in our house can call a family meeting. And anyone in the house can say, you're out of pocket. It doesn't matter if you're a child or you're an adult. It doesn't matter. But that was that moment to me. I was like, I'm going to keep talking about this shit. And I get it. Like, people don't want to talk about politics. I completely get it, especially in our current situation. It's exhausting. I get it. But we still have to talk about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm not in a situation where I need Medicare for all per se. Mm-hmm. But I remember what we went through last year when we ended up paying like $20,000 in 3 days because of hospital bills.
It was our down payment for a house.
It just so happened that we were in a situation where financially we were able to do that and not be hurt. But think about other people.
Will not be put on the streets, but that's a lot of money for your
20
down
grand
payment.
Is 20
that's
grand.
a lot of money.
Yeah, for sure.
But
for sure.
obviously some people, it's going to affect them to the point where they're out. Yeah, it's... Ugh. You know what? One thing I will say, okay, I'm an extremely prideful person, and so I think part of it is pride, but also like me as a person, I have like insecurities about myself and how I measure up as a person. So I don't like hearing anything negative about myself. For the longest time, I didn't even go in the comment section because it didn't matter that there was 30 positives and 1 negative. The 1 negative is what stood out to me.
Yeah.
I've now I can read the comment section and I'm fine with that, but that was way at the beginning of our channel, and it was something that I had to do. You have to recognize where your own mental health is and say, okay, this is not good for me. But one thing that I've not been open to is having any criticism coming from children. That's not going to happen because that was way too big of a hit on my pride. But when you think about it, really, actually listening to the assessment or the criticism of children is actually one of the best places that you can be, because adults can have a lot of manipulative reasoning or whatever, like they're trying to maneuver you in a certain way. So they may say, hey, this is a whatever, because they are actually trying to gain something from the situation. Yeah. But where a child is, well, you hurt my feelings because this wasn't right that you did that. You know, like one of my kids, I had said something and it actually was crazy once I had time to like stop and think about it. I was basically saying I'm happy to be in America because I'm safe and my kids are safe. And I'm grateful for that. And if you're not grateful for that, then you're an ungrateful person. And then she was basically saying, well, that's horrendous that you would say that. And I was offended that she said that something I said was horrendous, especially in regards to their safety and mine.
Horrific.
Horrific.
Yeah.
And then, but then after, thinking about it, it's like, well, that is pretty terrible. I'm going to be grateful that it's not my kids getting blown up, but it's my country that's blowing up other people's kids, and that's. But I'm saying you're ungrateful for not being grateful. It was a very interesting thing, but it's opening yourself up to be able to hear, especially like I said, what children are saying is they're coming from a place where they're just like seeing the world in a kind of like new way, because they have only been alive for 10 years, 12 years. They haven't been alive, and in a big chunk of that time, they're just babies and children, and you know what I mean? So like now to hear what they have to say and allow that. Be kind of open-minded to say, okay, is this a problem? Is this an issue? And so that father heard his son.
Yeah.
I can't believe he was even watching that with his son. What did he think was going to happen?
Yeah. I know.
But good for the father for getting out of that.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, it's mind-boggling to me. People say kids should be seen and not heard. Motherfucker, kids might be the only chance you have of still remaining with a conscience.
But because they're going to love you regardless. But if you listen to what they have to say, they do.
Yeah, kids, they're going to love you unconditionally.
Right.
But if you give them the opportunity, they can really give you some really, 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 really good insights. But for me, when I hear, when I hear people say, oh, you should never discuss politics, like, on the one hand, I'm like, people have to watch your own mental health. Mm-hmm. But on the other hand, I say, we're only saying that because we're in a position of privilege. I don't want to hear about the bombings in Afghanistan. Yeah, because you're not here. You're not there.
Yeah.
It's not affecting you.
Yeah. Yeah,
trust me, if you were in Afghanistan, listen, if you were in Afghanistan, if you were a kid in Afghanistan, you would want Americans to constantly bring that shit up. If you were in a situation where you had some terminal illness or something like that, and there was some sort of societal structure that was going to guarantee your death, you would want people to talk about it. The only time when people don't want to hear about something politically is when it does not affect them directly and they're tired of hearing about it. It's like, when white people say, I'm so tired of you guys talking about race, blah, blah, blah. Well, I'm tired of seeing my folks getting killed every fucking other month. Right? So, like, we've got to, on the other hand, I know that, I say this all the time, God did not intend for us to be able to have a view to all of human suffering 24 hours a day. Now we have a 24-hour news cycle, and these news people are horrible. They keep releasing all this death porn because they know it's gonna, and that's why I tell people, like, you don't have to watch that, right? Mm-hmm. So there's a real balance, but I respect the hell out of this band for going in this direction with this song. Holy shit.
To be honest with you, I feel like the only people that should have the pass to say, I don't want to talk about, I mean, okay, maybe I'm not looking at the full picture here, but when I think about like the lying and all the back and forth that happens in politics, I can see people saying, I don't want to talk about that.
100%.
But there are 100%. Massive major issues, and I feel like the only people that could justifiably say, I don't want to talk about that topic, I need a break from that, or my mental health, blah, blah, are only people that are actively doing something to stop that. And then they say, okay, like for instance, you know, if you're standing in front of Planned Parenthood and you're saying, look, we'll help you, whatever you need, come talk to us. You know, you need diapers, you need whatever, we're going to help you. We'll adopt the baby. But then you can't talk about abortion every single day, all day. It's too traumatic to the mind to think about that death happening constantly. So because you're an active person in participating in alleviating that pain, then you could say, okay, I need to take a break from this.
Yeah.
But if you're not doing anything to stop that pain, then you don't have the right to sit back and say, well, I don't want to discuss this because it doesn't affect you personally.
I'm not sure. I hear what you're saying. I'm not sure if I fully agree with that because, like I said, I think we can get overloaded. There's a lot of really horrible shit. You know, 2 songs ago, we were talking about female circumcision. I mean, it's just a lot of really... So, like, for me, for example... I don't want to look into the details of that topic. And I don't talk a lot about it. One, because it's not as ubiquitous as people think it is. But the other one is because there are so many immediate... You almost have to triage what you're getting.
I would switch it up a little bit. I would say there are some people that are not doing anything to ease the suffering of any group of people. They're just living their lives and they don't want to hear about it.
Yeah.
That's the groups of people I'm talking about. You can't bury your head in the sand to human suffering and say, I don't want to talk about it because it bugs your day.
Right.
The atrocity doesn't bug your day. The fact that you have to hear about the atrocity bugs your day. And I guess that's where I would augment what I said to say, because you can't alleviate the pain in every single painful situation. I mean, there's no time in your life to do that for every painful situation. You don't even know about all of them.
Right.
And you can't say, well, then you have to think and talk about all those things, because else you're right, that's irrational. But to say that you're not doing anything to eliminate any of that pain and suffering, and to say that you don't even want to talk about it or hear about it, then that's just head in the sand.
Yeah, but these pharmaceutical companies, man, the entire operation, the pharmaceutical companies, the hospital complexes, the insurance companies, it's sick. It is, to me, the highest indication that capitalism has massive holes in it due to human nature that we've got to augment it. This is crazy. I was just reading something else. I haven't confirmed it yet. 1 in 7 banks now own these houses on the housing market because they don't have any competition because everybody was home last year not working. And so you've got regular people who are looking down the barrel of getting their house foreclosed on. Mm-hmm. Because the government told them to stay inside and not work. But on the other side of that, you have these banks now that could just buy up all these vacant homes now. And
I'll tell you what.
And drive up the prices. It's completely immoral.
It's completely irrational too. So when I was looking, in my previous relationship, when we were looking for houses, we were trying to find the least expensive house that we could so we wouldn't have that mortgage over our head so big. And we found this house that, the location, I didn't feel safe with the location, but put that aside. The house itself was perfect. It was huge. It was exactly what we were looking for, blah, blah, blah. Although, because the bank bought it and they would sit on the houses, like they wouldn't try to sell them. They wouldn't put it at a reasonable price. So let's say the house was set at $200,000, which is something we could not afford. And because the house sat on the market for so long, because it wasn't in that great of a location, people went in and they literally cut all the copper piping out of all of the entire house.
This was like 2008?
Yeah. And so when they cut the piping out, the water wasn't shut off in the house previously. So when those pipes got cut, friggin' water shot out everywhere. So the whole house was molded. And so the whole basement was really, really molded. So it was going to be massive, the project of doing it. So we thought, man, if you could get this house for like $20,000 or $50,000 and then you put in that amount of work, yeah. You're still dealing with black mold. You still have a lot of work to do to get all this out of there, but it would be worth it. The bank, nope, they're not budging on it. They're leaving the price at the same price that it was before all the damage was done. Mm-hmm. Unwilling to move. They're just going to sit on that house and let it rot. And our realtor said, I see it all the time, and it's been going on for as long as she's been in the business, and she's older. She said it's always been like that. The banks will buy it up, and they'll sit on that shit so people can't get it. And then it forces people to pay high prices when there's a lot more available out there. It's sick.
It's
and then our money goes to bail them out.
It's completely sick. It's really, really evil.
It is.
And then you get these people that are, capitalism has raised all these people out of poverty, blah, blah, blah. The fuck are you talking about?
See, I guess, so I don't know if you guys have ever seen the movie It's a Wonderful Life. So, this is going to make me a little emotional. In there, the husband and wife, they get together. Basically, it's the story of this guy, wants his life to end because he doesn't have any money. And then somebody basically said, you're worth more dead than alive because his insurance policy was worth more. So he was going to kill himself, but when he does, he wishes that he was never born, and then he gets to see what life is like if he was never born. And his impact was massive. Well, you see, when he's not never born, him and his wife, they don't have much, but they pool their money together and they start building basically a little subdivision, and they're not extravagant houses. They're basic houses for a family to live decently and not in poverty. And so it's I don't know, maybe someday God will open that up so we'll be able to do something like that, where it's houses that are not granite countertops and, whatever. It's just basic flooring, but enough space for families to enjoy and have a living room and a kitchen and not live underneath somebody else and the apartment rules and, overpaying for stuff and just making stuff very reasonable for families who want to raise their families and stay at home. But anyway, just when you see the banks and stuff doing stuff like that, it's, I don't know, I just find it to be just painful that people are in bad, horrible situations when it doesn't have to be that way, especially when the banks are getting bailouts by us, regular people. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's infuriating. The big homie AT asked me a question, so let me put that question back up because I did think it was relevant.
Anthony, the Lone Ranger? He's here?
Yeah, I agree with Ben. There is no difference between capitalism and corporatism. Private property leads to corporations. I don't know about that last part, about private corporations necessarily leading to corporations, but look, this whole thing where it's oh no, that's not capitalism, that's crony capitalism. Sorry, you can't have crony capitalism, and you can't have corporatist capitalism without capitalism. Mm-hmm. I'm not saying that socialism and communism are pristine alternatives. I think there are major problems with them. Mm-hmm. But what I cannot stand is capitalist apologists almost never deal with the ramifications, because there's nothing to say that what Pfizer did was wrong from a capitalist worldview. You can't say it's wrong.
It's unbelievable.
So I guess the question I have for capitalists is, how much thinking have you done to make capitalism immune from the exigencies of human nature, particularly how selfish we are? Mm-hmm. Do you see that as a problem? I see it as a major problem. Mm-hmm. So, it's a terrible situation. But, it was Alan. It wasn't Anthony. Okay, so Alan asked this question. How do you relate that to a male POV of not being pro-life because they can never relate to the woman's position? Well, I think the answer to that is very simple. And your question itself indicates the problem with this discussion.
Okay,
who's
can
missing?
You just redefine can you re-say his question?
How do you relate that to a male point of view of not being pro-life because they cannot relate to the woman's position? So the question, how can you be advocating for a law that affects this group of people and you've never been in their shoes? And of course, the answer to that is very simple. You're missing, Alan, the fact that I have been in those shoes. Namely, I have been a baby in the womb of my mother, right? So my point of view is a point of view that all of us can relate to. All of us have been babies inside of our mother, and none of us would have wanted to have our arms, legs, torso shredded, and our heads crushed until our brain exited our mother's cervix. None of us would have wanted that to happen. So no, I can't relate to the woman because I'm not a woman, but I can relate to the baby.
Yeah,
right?
But the idea of empathy is that you can sympathize with someone, not necessarily because you were once in the situation. I think that's not the epitome of selfishness, but the idea that you can't relate to somebody because you were never in the situation. The only, I used to be really cold on a lot of topics because they never happened to me. And then I lost a baby. And after that, I got very, very sympathetic. I don't think that makes me an unbelievable person. I think that that's actually definitional of my selfishness, that I first had to lose before I could sympathize with other people. Empathy is, you don't have to be in that situation. So I've never been homeless. I've never lived in rough living conditions. I mean, I've always had a place to lay my head. I've always had a very comfortable, you know what I mean? Like that's never, but I can sympathize, and obviously I get emotional thinking about people living in poverty and suffering to the degree that people suffer. So I think that empathy is something that is lost a lot in our society, and unfortunately so, because when you can empathize with other people, then it kind of helps with change.
Yeah. No. There's no lag, because I still think AT that it was. By the way, AT is also a DJ, so shout out to him.
Right.
Shout out to Brooke. Brooke lost a baby, and shout out to you.
Sorry to hear that, Brooke.
But she's still, look at that profile picture though. Still smiling, still beautiful, still happy, not letting life get her down. That's what we about. Same with Tina. Been homeless twice in London. Shout out to Tina. Yeah, I mean it's Jern goes, you've been in the womb. That memory is astonishing. Mine starts at 3. Yeah, the memory is irrelevant, right? It's irrelevant to the fact that all of us have been babies and none of us would have wanted to have been disassembled alive in our mother's womb. Okay, this song is getting a 10.5 for me. 10.5 for me. Shout out to Brooke. I'm very, very sorry for that, Brooke, but you still have that bright, shining smile, so that's amazing.
One thing I always think about that helps me is I'm too emotional. Vinny's mom passed away years ago, and one of the things that gives me comfort is that my baby is with her. And so hearing about your baby, I'm like, well, our babies are probably playing. But yeah, it's a tough thing.
It is. And there's Jern. No, it's not irrelevant to personhood. Yes, it is, Jern, because there isn't a universal definition of personhood. Personhood is a philosophical idea. It's not a scientific fact. If you want to deal with the personhood argument, Jern, go consult Francesca Minerva, who believes that newborn babies are not persons because they don't have a concept of the future and cannot create goals and aims for themselves. Therefore, they should be able to be killed. Or you can go back to the antebellum period where people were saying that Negroes were human, but they were not as human as Anglo-Saxons were. They were not persons. They were human beings, but they were not human persons, so we could enslave them. This personhood argument has been used to dehumanize people and justify murdering them for centuries. That's not new. I think we have to come back with better,
okay, it's a 10 for me.
more thought-through ideas to justify abortion. 10.5, guys. Vin out.
Sori out.
Gone. We're going to take a little intermission.